What's up, everybody? My name's Joe, and welcome back to Film Focused. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about color contrast filters and how they affect black and white film. I did mention this in a previous video on film photography accessories that I think everyone should have, and I decided to do a little bit of just research on my own and figure out what filters I like the most. And I thought that would make a good video. So today I'm going to be showing you guys my look at yellow, orange, and red color contrast filters and how they affect black and white film. The stuff I used is all right here. I shot everything on the Pentax 672. The film I used was TMax 400, and these are the filters I used. This is a newer color contrast filter kit. I got it on Amazon for $18, I think, which is a steal. I will leave the link for these in the description below. Usually good filters will cost probably twice that amount just for one filter. So this is a really good kit to get if you're just interested in trying it out. That's exactly why I bought it. The filters do a great job. They're just not of really high quality. So a higher quality filter will render better results and have less of a negative impact on the overall sharpness of your images. With that being said, I honestly haven't found any glaring negative results by using these cheaper filters, but I can guarantee you that there is some loss of sharpness using the cheaper filters. They're also not built as well, so these will most likely break in a relatively short amount of time, whereas a higher end filter will, it'll last you a really, really long time. So before we get into, the shooting, looking at the images, and kind of my findings from this experiment, I want to talk to you guys a little bit, especially for people who are not as experienced with using them. Let's just talk about color contrast filters and how they work. The easiest way to understand these is to look at a color wheel. So you can see yellow, orange, and red, the three color contrast filters that we're using, and their complementary colors, or the colors that are on the opposite side of the spectrum: purple, blue, and green. So if I have a yellow filter attached to my lens, it's going to allow yellow light and those similar wavelengths of light through, but it's going to make it more difficult for purple light to come through and those similar wavelengths of light to come through and expose the film. Similarly, on an orange filter, orange light and those similar wavelengths will pass through, but blue and those similar wavelengths of light, that's going to be more difficult for those wavelengths to come through and expose the film. And then lastly, red light and those similar wavelengths will pass through rather easily, but green and those colors that are similar to green are going to have a difficult time making it through that filter and exposing the film. So the two major differences that make an effect on the contrast are the actual color of the filter. Yellow is the least impactful, or has the least amount of effect. It has a very small but still noticeable effect on the film. Orange is a happy medium between yellow and red is generally known as a very high contrast filter. So the second thing is not just the color, but also the density of that filter. So yellow filters are rather translucent and transparent. So not only does a lot of light pass through, it's not inhibiting too much light, but there is still a need to compensate your exposure. So with my filter, and this is specific to mine, I need an extra 2/3 stop of light to get a properly exposed image with a yellow filter. Now the orange filter has more of an effect, and that's because it's a more dense color. So the orange filter needs an extra 1.5 stops of light to get a proper exposure. And then for the red filter, which is the most dense color filter that I have, that needs an extra 2 stops of light to get a proper exposure. So be sure to test out your filters when you get them with your digital camera and make sure you get the proper exposure and then see how much of a difference it is that you have to compensate for when you're shooting them on film, because the last thing you want to do is get these filters, pop them on, go shoot, and then see that your entire roll of film is underexposed, because that could be a really big pain in the ass. Alright, so we're here at the first scene that we're going to shoot. We're here just on the water. We have a nice bright sunny day with some clouds in the sky. I think this scene is going to be good for just taking an initial look at how these filters affect the film that we're shooting. So here I have the Pentax 6.7. It's loaded with TMax 400. We're shooting at box speed. First, we're going to take an image with no filter on the lens as a control, and then we'll go ahead and do the yellow, orange, and then the red filter, and then see what differences those make afterward. Alright, time for the yellow filter. Alright, now we're going to shoot with the orange filter, and this filter requires 1.5 extra stops of light. So I'm dropping the shutter speed down to 1/60th of a second, and then my f-stop is going to be at f13. Last but not least, we have the red filter here. That needs 2 extra stops of light, so I'm going to drop the f-stop down to 11 this time. Alright, so we've made it to the second scene here, which is in a neighborhood in Virginia Beach, and I have this red car in front of this complex with still a nice bright blue sky, and we have some green foliage on the left side here. So we're going to go through the same process, take an image with no filter attached, and then go ahead and do the yellow, orange, and then red filters. I forgot to film when I shot with the yellow filter. There were a lot of cars going by and the light has been shifting, so I sped up and took a photograph with the yellow filter without getting video of it. But here we're going to wait for the sun to come back out just a little bit more to make sure that the light is right, and then we'll expose this frame. Alright, we now have the red filter attached, and I've added 2 stops of exposure. So there's the mirror lockup, and there we go. Alright, so all of these images were developed and scanned by me on my Epson V850 Pro. They were all scanned with the exact same settings, and then taken into Photoshop and just set the proper white point and black point to make sure that all of the images were properly exposed. None of these images were edited in any other way or even spotted other than that. I wanted to make sure to keep the integrity of the actual filters and how they affect the film. So here's the first scene, all 4 images up on the screen. On the top left, image with no filter, top right, yellow filter, bottom left, the orange filter, and bottom right, the red filter. Now, if you take a look at all 3 of the images that were taken with a filter attached, there isn't too much of a difference, but there are still subtle differences between those 3 filters. But if you compare any of those back to the image that was taken without any filter, you can see a significant increase in contrast. And I like all of the images with a filter attached more than the image that was taken without a filter. I would say that my 2 favorites here would probably be the yellow filter and the red filter. There was some wind when I was shooting, so that did have a small effect on the quality and consistency of the light in these scenes. However, I don't think it made enough of a difference that it really compromised any of these images at all. Now here in the next scene, we have the scene with the red car, and from left to right, no filter, yellow filter, orange filter, and red filter. And similar thing, with all of the images that were taken with the filter, I like them better than the image without the filter. However, because the car was red, you can see a significant difference between the red and orange filter in comparison to the image with the yellow filter. And even here, I do believe the sky with the red filter, it was definitely affected by those clouds passing through. I think it would have looked a lot better if I had more blue sky like in the orange filter and the yellow filter. So for these two images, I would probably say the orange and the yellow are my two favorite. However, just taking that into account and knowing how these filters work and how they affect my shooting, the yellow filter only needs an extra 2/3 of a stop, so that's not going to affect the way that I shoot too much. So I do think I'm going to invest in a new higher quality yellow filter. And same thing with the red filter. I really like the way that the red filter affects these images, and I think the increase in the intensity of the red filter is, I think it's worth getting a new filter, but also exposing for that extra half stop over the orange filter. I think the orange filter is just too similar to the yellow filter. So I think I'm going to go with a new yellow filter and a new red filter in the not too distant future. Now I did add one last bonus image here that was shot on HP5 a while back, and you might recognize the image with the horses on the beach from a previous video of mine. The image on the left was taken just before, but I was taking that image without a red filter attached. So you can see, and these are actually edited too, I want to make that clear. So these are both edited to my liking. However, you can see that there is a significant increase in contrast with the red filter in the scene on the right. And that's because of the bright blue sky and the clouds. There you can see it's higher contrast and it's more dramatic. And same thing with the water. The water is much darker in the image taken with a red filter as opposed to the image taken without one. So just another example of what a red filter can do for your images, especially for shooting on a bright, sunny day with blue skies or over the water. I think it's a beautiful filter, and I'm really looking forward to investing in a higher quality one that I can use, without any doubt of reducing the quality or the sharpness of my images. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really hope you got something from it. I was planning on doing this experiment anyway and figured it would make a really good video and spread some, extra knowledge out there about film photography. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll get back to every single one that I can. I will leave links in the description for kind of everything that I used here. So if you're interested in trying out something that I have, links will be there for you to check it all out. Please like this video, comment, subscribe, share the video. All of that really, really helps. With all that said and done, hope you guys have a great rest of the day wherever you are. Happy shooting, and I will see you next time.